Hello! Welcome to codeLive. I'm Kevin Poorman. I'm a developer advocate here at Salesforce, and today we're doing some more JavaScript. I thought we were done last week, but then I got an outpouring of people on the Twitters and emails saying, hey, we want some more JavaScript stuff. So we're today we're going to tackle what it looks like to practice for and go through the Lightning Web Component Superbadge. Before we do that, make sure everyone can hear me okay. Yes, maybe. Let's see if everyone can hear me. And, leave me a comment over here saying, yes, of course we can hear you, Kevin. That sort of thing. Or not. Today, like I said, we're going to work through the Lightning Web Components Superbadge. We're not going to cover everything. We're going to cover select topics. No, I'm not going to solve the challenges for you. No, I'm not going to help you do the Superbadge on your own. However, we will talk about the topics. Getting some people in there. Hey, Valon, and hey, Amir. I'm doing pretty good today. How are y'all? I got somebody named Tiago. Not sure where you're from. Where are you from, Tiago? And we got a Jesus. He says good vibes. I think that was about the music. I'm enjoying the music too. And all right. So reminder: if you are enjoying this, hit the plus sign, the like button. That makes me feel good. But also subscribing. If you hit the subscribe button, the next time we go live, it will let you know ahead of time. Hey, I'm going live, and so you won't miss anything. Yep, good times. Okay. So today, what I've done is I have spun up in Visual Studio Code a copy of the Lightning Web Components recipes. Now, if you've never heard of this, that's LWC recipes. If you just search for that, you'll get this URL. This is an open source repository that my team puts out about Lightning Web Components and recipes. A recipe is a small, digestible, easy to use bit of code that demonstrates in the shortest bit of code possible how to do a specific thing in Lightning Web Components. So as you might imagine, if you ever want to know, how do I do X in Lightning Web Components, you can go here and find out. So we're going to be using these as examples in order to crib things from. And we're going to be working in a repository that has all of that all set up. So it has data, that sort of stuff. And yeah, so let's dive into it. Now, if we look at our Lightning Web Components Superbadge, one of the things it says we're going to be doing is using the Lightning Design System in functional Lightning Web Components, which is, one of those things that you read on a syllabus or on a test prep that is delightfully vague and doesn't tell you much. But throughout this entire session, we're going to be using SLDS as we build some Lightning Web Components here. Somebody's saying, please zoom the screen. I can do that. Boop, boop, boop. How's that? And then over here, when we open up something, we'll bump that one up a little bit more too. Okay. We're going to convert Visualforce pages into a solution using Lightning Web Components. We're not going to touch on this one today, and it's only because friends don't let friends write Visualforce pages, and I didn't have one around to convert. So we're going to move right on to that with doing things in surfacing our Lightning Web Components in the Lightning App Builder. And we're going to do some configuration things as well. So first things first, let's go ahead and dig into and build a custom Lightning Web Component. And we're going to do this just so we have a place to play around. We're going to do LWC, create a Lightning Web Component. We're going to call this one codeLive. And we're going to put it in the default directory. Ooh, somebody's from Portugal. I would love to visit Portugal. Here is our basic Lightning Web Component. Now, it opens the controller here. We can also open the HTML. And when we go into this one, you'll see that it's pulling in Lightning Element from LWC. We need that in order to build our Lightning Element. But then what we can do here is we can go into this and we can put in some basic information. We can do a property like greeting equals hello world. Whoop. World. I should probably capitalize hello. Okay, and then we have our codeLive HTML where we can just put out our greeting like that. Does not allow unary expressions. Are you sure about that? What I'm going to do is I'm going to go and I'm going to look at our composition basics one. And this has, oh, it's no, yeah. See, this is what I get for messing around with Visualforce too. Save this. Now, one of the things that always gets me when I do Lightning Web development is I'll go and I'll save this, and then I go try to use it in the app app builder, and it's not there. So what I mean by that is, let me go back over here to our org. I've opened this and put this org in here, and I'm going to go to Edit Page. And if I go into Edit Page here, I've got 71 custom components here, and not a single one of them is codeLive. It's just not there. And why is that? Because I haven't exposed it. So let's talk about what that does. Let's go back to our code here. Now, Lightning Web Components are a bundle of files. You always get at least 3. When you create it, you get the HTML, you get the JavaScript file, and you get this thing called the js-meta.xml. And it is, as you would expect, XML. But one of the things that it has in here is in the properties, this is our metadata file, as this is exposed is equal to false. Now I can set this to true, and while I'm in here I can set this to 54, and we'll just save that here. Saving. It's going to come back and tell me successful, and I have to hit the button that says only in status bar. I just want that to go away. Okay, so once I've done that is exposed true, if I reload this page, we should see under custom composition row. It's not there. It's not there. And you know why it's not there? It's because we're not in debug mode, so this has been cached. So one of the things that I always do, it makes it slower, but I always do this, is I go in, when I'm doing LWC development, I go in and I turn on debug mode. So if I go to Lightning Components debug mode in setup, I can choose my user, enable, and then you'll know that I have it in debug mode because when I reload this page, I'm going to get some information up here in the upper right. See this EPT and then 1.4 seconds and then how much page data has been downloaded. These are telling me how long it took to load the page and what. And then when I turn on debug mode, it turns off caching. So now if I go into edit page, caption option disable, not enable English caption. Amir, I don't know what that means. I didn't know I had captions at all. That's kind of cool if I have automatic captions. But we probably, let me talk to my team about that. I'm sure my team has a better answer. Now, we've exposed this here, and you'll notice that we still don't have codeLive listed here. Why is that? We've exposed it, but with Lightning Web Components, you also have to say where your component can be used. So while exposing it makes it available technically to the Lightning App Builder, it doesn't necessarily make it available for this page type. This page type that we're working with is a Lightning page, and if we were to go over and just Google for Lightning Web Component targets, you'll see that we've got a whole list of targets and tools in the documentation, and one of those things like, that is not the thing I thought it was. These are the supported tool software targets. I want the, okay, that's, let's do this. We're going to do search for target in the documentation. Okay, it won't let me, apparently it's not going to let me do that. Target. You know, we are many things. We are good at many things at Salesforce, and search is not one of them. So we're going to do LWC target meta.xml. Try and pull that up. Here we go. That's what I was looking for. The configuration file elements. Somebody's asking here a question. Hold on a second. Ashish is saying, is there somewhere in the project we can specify the API version so subsequent file creation would automatically consider that version? That's a great question, and it's a good enough question. I'm going to take a sidebar here. You see that I have the API version here in the metadata file for this component. And when you set the metadata file for this component, that is setting the metadata, the API version for the runtime of the component. You can set the API version for the project here in the sfdx-project. And that is going to set the project level, what API version should it communicate to Salesforce with. So when it goes to upload your metadata or to grab metadata, it's going to be using which version of the API, in this case 54. And finally, in your scratch org config, in the config file here, you can have the third place, which apparently I don't have any demo of. But the key is that this version is set on a per metadata or per component level, and that's a good thing. That's on purpose. What happens is the sort of templates for creating a new Lightning Web Component. When I invoke this LWC create Lightning Web Component here, it's going to go through a little wizard and it's going to sort of templatize me a Lightning Web Component. Now that Lightning Web Component template doesn't get as updated as often as it maybe should be. So the template defaults to 52, and so if you create a new one, you'll just have to update it. So we were looking at the documentation for our configuration file elements, and one of the things is this targets. The targets is going to let us specify whether or not this is available in the community, on like a default page or a page, and it also let us set whether or not it's available for an app page, a home page, and a record page, etc. So let's go ahead and add this to all of those. And so what happens is, and this is a little, I'm going to say this is not metadata that makes sense to me, because up here what we do is we do targets, and then target, and we do, it's not target name, it's like Lightning record page, and is it target name? Let's look at this. Let's look at our composition basics metadata. If I click on the right thing, target's target. Yeah, I thought that was a little weird. Sometimes the autocomplete is not as helpful as it could be. Target. And we'll put in here, the other one we want to do is we'll do an app page, and then we'll do target record home. It's not record home, it's home page is what I want. That I'm going to save this now. Now I fully expect our component to show up when we go back into Lightning App Builder, because we've said that we want it available on these types of pages and that it is exposed. Okay, so when this finishes saving, we'll check it out. And let's go back to our, here we go. And we're going to reload. Okay, now we have 72 custom components, which is boding well. Here's codeLive, and so we can drag this over here, and I'm just going to put this on the page for right now, and it just says hello world. Well, let me activate this. Okay, we're going to page save, activated. Okay, and we're going to go back, and now you can see our new component is on the page. Hello world, but it obviously doesn't look very good. It just says hello world floating there. So let's go ahead and put together some SLDS styles using some base components. So I'm going to go into my HTML here, and in my greeting I'm going to do what's called a lightning card. Okay, and there's so many options with this. If we go back to our, here we go, Lightning component reference, go into the Lightning namespace and we pull up card. You can see all sorts of different things that we could do with this. So we got a basic card. Let's do card with custom title and footer, and it'll show us a preview of what it looks like, and then it'll give us the HTML for what we want. So I'm going to copy pasta, because good developers make software, better developers copy software. and we'll take the greeting and we'll put the greeting in the card body like that, and we'll save that. We'll reformat it for us because we're using Prettier. You are using Prettier, right? Yeah, good. Prettier it's amazing. Amazing software. I would like to meet the original developers and then take them out for a nice meal of their choosing, and just wine and dine them for the evening. I'm that big of a fan of it. So now that we've changed that, if we go back to our org and we reload this, well, it's reloading here. CG Fit is asking a question: is the pub sub the only way to pass data to a window object properties like window.data layer? Because LWC component cannot see global window object. CG Fit, the window level objects are hidden due to Lightning Web Security and the Lightning Locker service, and that's by intention, so that we don't want a malicious ISV or a malicious actor to be able to send data back and forth to another component on the page. So yes, PubSub is the only way of doing that outside of probably Lightning Message Service, and we may get to Lightning Message Service today. I don't know, but for right now, yeah, PubSub or Lightning Message Service. But having put in our Lightning card, you can now see that we got our card title here and our hello world. Now let's make that a little bit more interesting. Right, we've got different icons we can put in here, and I think that there's a little bit of space up there for some reason. So let's take a look at that. Lightning card is within Lightning card, and we don't want that. That was a copy pasta fail, and I'm just going to make it look like the rest of these. So I'm going to look at my HTML here, and over here we've got a Lightning card with an icon name and title here in the definition. One of the things I really like about this is that I can do things like this and do codeLive. And now we've done the exact same thing that we had here in the title by putting that title up there with the thing, and we save this. We'll look at it. Samuel's saying variant narrow gives a good look on a Lightning card component. Yeah? I'm not terribly familiar with the narrow one, so let's look at where is our here we go. You said narrow variant. Let's look at this. Well, I'm not seeing a difference between that and the basic card with title and footer. They look pretty much the same. Try the narrow variant. Let's see if that gets us anything. It gets us this little down drop box. All right, we can try narrow. We'll put variant narrow in there. Ain't no harm in doing that. Boom. Okay, and so we've also got this footer thing with some tags in it. We're not really doing much with that, but when we go look at our thing here now, let's make sure this looks prettier. Oh, look at that. See, we're getting our little icon, we've got codeLive next to it. And so just by using SLDS, which is baked into those base components, we've already made our component look much like it belongs, right? Before it was just some words floating on the page. Now it actually looks like it belongs here, that it isn't something like, some weird extension gone awry. Now it looks like it belongs. And so we can do that sort of stuff. And what we've done so far in this is we've just pulled out our greeting property. We can do some other things. For instance, we could put in the title. We could do this as title. We could do title, and then come over to our JavaScript and do a title like that, and property. I'm going to put that in this property there. Let's save this. Changes action slot to show menu instead of buttons. Ah, I see. So I see what you're saying. So the narrow variant, when we did this as the when we did this as the narrow, what we've done is we've changed the way we want our actions to show up. Now we don't currently have any actions, so it doesn't show anything right now. But when we do have actions, that will be where they show up in the little drop down. All right, so we've got this as our codeLive property. We're substituting that JavaScript created thing in for property, and we've got hello world as there. Now let's do some other interesting things. Now to do this, to do some basic composition, I'm going to create a second LWC component, and I'm going to call it codeLive2. And what I'll do is I'll say, let's do create lightning web component. We'll do code live child. We'll do parent-child relationships here. Put it in its normal thing. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to say @API, and I'm going to give it a name here of child name, a child title name, like that. Now you'll see I'm getting this invalid decorator usage. This is a decorator, this @API. It looks like an annotation in, say, Apex or Java, and maybe other languages, but this is actually in JavaScript a decorator. And a decorator is an annotation on speed, and they don't really have a good analog in other languages, so that's why I struggle to describe what they do. But they are modifiers for a variable. Actually, you know what? They're just like what Swift UI calls property wrappers. They're going to take a variable and they're going to wrap it with some extra functionality. So in this case, we're going to pull in API. That comes from LWC as well. And as soon as we pull in API up here, that error message goes away. So we can put that there. And what is the IDE name? Nakati, I'm using Visual Studio Code, and this color theme is called Cody's in Bed by 10. And so let me back up here, back to our original thing. When we create this @API property that we've tagged here, what we get is the ability to, this gives us the ability, @API equals the ability to set a child component, this component's property from the HTML that includes this component. And that is a mouthful, so let me okay. So we've got component. Okay, when we do this @API child title name, we now can say, let's save this here. We can now say that in our lightning card, here in our HTML of this, we want to include a codeLive. That's codeLive child, and we can set what do we call that variable? Child title name equal to child title, and we'll go into our control over here. We'll call this one child title is equal to codeLive child property. We're really creative on our descriptives here, and pass this in, and we're getting it's not a valid attribute. All attributes should be all lowercase. So what we're going to do is we're going to pull this in like this. Okay, so we're going to set our child title name all lowercase to be child title. Save this. Now we use this kebab case. If you've never heard kebab case, that means using dashes between complete words. So like muscle memory, I end up doing things with what do you call it? The normal Java case where it's first word is undercase, is lowercase, and then every other one is capitalized, the first letter. For some reason, I'm totally blanking on what that's called. And okay, let's do this, and then save this here. Let's make sure this works. Does Cody really go to bed at 10? Cody really goes to bed at 10 at my house. Bring in Cody here. This is my virtual pet, Cody. He's a lovely puppy, very feisty. You can interact with. I can interact with him here. Camel case, that's what it's called. I'm having a day. Okay, so over here now, if we reload this, we should have our custom component down here. Show up with a custom title, and that did not work. Let's see why that did not work. Okay, so we have not exposed this, but I don't think we need to expose it in order to get access to it in a different codeLive child. Let's just make sure true. I can do that, and we will save that. And I want to say, let's do this. Let's put some. Oh, you know what it is? Ha 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 ha. Yes, go me. codeLive child has no template. There's nothing there, so it probably worked just fine. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a lightning card, and I'm going to pull open this one. We're going to grab this, and we're going to do just like that. Our title is going to be in the child. Our title is going to be called child title name, and we're going to do whatever icon 56 is. We'll see what that is. And lightning is not a valid namespace. Did I misspell it? Lightning. Yeah, helps if I can spell. And we'll do hello world there. Save that. Yep, it's C-component name. Why C-component name? That's because it's your custom namespace. That C- is your custom namespace bit. Ah! Okay. My calendar is telling me I'm supposed to be in another meeting, but that's no fun. Let's look at this. Here we go. Let's reload this. And see, we've got our child property title, just as we expected it would, and it also has hello world. So what we've been able to do is create two components and pass data from the parent component into the child component. We're using that API decorator. Component communication can be more exciting with other things, but let's do a little bit more of making this pretty. We're going to look at this documentation for the card, and I was looking to see. I thought there was a way to change the color of the header, but I don't remember what it is. So we've got our codeLive property, and then we've got our codeLive child property. Those are both JavaScript driven, and they are in our respective codeLive parent and codeLive child Lightning Web components. And we've pulled them up, nested them there, and we've set that property here. Let's be a little bit more explicit here. Let's do something interesting and fun. We're going to do hello world, and then in our Lightning card, I'm going to set this bit here, and we're going to get rid of this, and we're going to say we're going to take that part out, and we're going to put in some property. Why some property? Because naming things is hard. So here's our JavaScript. We'll have this set to be some property is equal to hello viewers. Hello viewers. Save that. Save this. And now we should have it even formatted a little bit even better. And we are halfway through. So let's take while this saves here, let's take a look at what we're going to be looking at here. We're also going to be looking at what we're going to do here. We've done some SLDS work. We've done Lightning components and surfacing them. We could do a custom. We could do a custom component, a little design side thing. That'll be fun. Okay, so that's saved. Let's look at this. Make sure it's even prettier than it was before. There we go. We've got that formatted. It says hello viewers. I'm liking this. Now let us go through and make this show up with. We can change this hello viewers to be a design side or app builder configurable section. So to do that, I'm going to look at our Lightning Web Component documentation, and I'm going to scroll up here. I'm going to go to the developer guide. I'm going to search for design. I think that's what they're called. Actually, I want the configure a component for Lightning App Builder, dynamic interactions in the app builder, and we can do dynamic interactions. They're not on the Superbadge though. What I wanted to do was configure a component for the Lightning App Builder. Yeah, here we go. Those are on the properties, and then we've got this properties that we can set in our XML, so our metadata. So if you want to be able to let your admin set up some things, and then when the user views that page, they see the selections or the choices that your admin has made when they put it on the page. Those are called design attributes or in the Aura age, and they're these properties, the target config properties. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at those. Oh, hey, Samuel's telling us that the SLDS team deprecated the narrow class. Interesting. It's still in our documentation. That's interesting. What I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this target configs bit, and we'll go over to our child metadata, and we'll put this here. And we also need the targets for this, and we'll put that in there as well. Actually, we can't do that. We're going to do it on the codeLive upper level one, and we will put in this here. I'll show you why in just a second. And now that I've copied this in here, we can go through what this is saying. This is saying if the target for the target config, if we are on a record page, which is an option, we've said record page, then we're going to set a property called prop1 of type string. And these are the objects that it's allowed to be on: account, opportunity, warehouse, and then that's that target config. We're not dealing with a record page, so I'm going to get rid of that one. And here we go. We have a target for Lightning App Page or Lightning Home Page, and we're going to call this one is prop2, and we're going to call it Boolean. Let's create a couple more in here. We'll do property, and we'll say this one is child greeting, and we'll make it a string. And we'll save this. Now there's some interesting things that happen when you put these target configs in place. We get to configure how our component works based off of the choices made by the, the prop2 component does not exist in this component. That is true. I need to create those components in my JavaScript. So we'll say prop2 like that, and we'll say, what did we call that? We called this one child greeting, and we'll do that. Okay, now we can save. We'll play with Cody while it does that. He's guarding the castle. Failed to... Rough. codeLive JavaScript. It does too. Prop2. It's right there. Oh, you know what? These have to be marked out. These have to be tagged with the API decorator. So what we're going to do is we're going to pull in the API decorator. Save that. Let it do its thing. It adds a class, but isn't part of the SLDS style sheet anymore. Sorry for my suggestions. You can ignore the variant. You can ignore the variant after all. Samuel, thanks for letting me know about that. That's really interesting. Okay, we're gonna just clear out of that so we know what we're. Okay, look, there we go. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to scroll the right way, and I'm going to go to my component. And nothing is visibly changed, right? But we have added that design component, that design bit. And so if I go to edit page, something really cool has happened. Specifically, if I highlight my codeLive thing here, I get to see property and child greeting. So if I turn on property, and I put my child greeting as hello, this was set in App Builder, and save that. Okay, now I can actually do something interesting with that. So for instance, I can come back over here, and in my JavaScript file, I've got this child greeting property, and I could change this so that it is actually used here. And so HTML, and instead of passing in child title, I can do child greeting. Now, it's not going to say codeLive child property. If I scroll the right way, see this is codeLive child property here. Now what we've done is we've set this up so that it should say, hello, this was set in the app builder when we reload this page. So let's go ahead and do that. Doop-a-doop-a-doop. Ba-doop-a-doop-a-doop. Hello, this was set in app builder. Now if I click on this again and I were to change this was set word to your pets, it dynamically updates to word to your pets, whatever we put in there. And so this allows you or in your admin team to go in and do things that are really interesting. Like we've got this prop2 as a Boolean. So what I can do here is I can come back and say, in my HTML, I can say, let's do a subtemplate, and we'll do if true, and we'll do, this is going to be prop2, right? So now we have a conditional template that's going to only display if the prop2 is true, and we'll put the greeting here. Okay, so if we save this, we've got a conditional template that shows our greeting, but only if we set prop2 to be true. This allows your admins to change the way your component functions and looks without them having to know how to code it. So as soon as this finishes saving, we will demonstrate that. So I'm going to reload this. Now I've got prop2 set to be true here. So it says hello world. If I click on this and I were to turn off prop2, you'll see that that title goes away. Bring it back, go away. Bring it back. This is satisfying. Go away, come back. Okay, and we can also change this to be whatever we'd like. Now we can save this, and that's sort of a superficial example of what you could do, but those are really powerful because you can start putting in properties that allow people to choose things that they want. One of the things you can do even further is to extend your components with property setters. Not property setters. Yeah, that's for flows. Pay no attention to me. I was losing my mind. So we have our page here. We've got our custom component. Let's look about doing some other work. Now, if we look and see what else we need to do here, we need to be able to, we've done this in Power Admins to configure your custom components. We've created and invoke Apex methods to read data from custom objects. That sounds like fun. Let's do that. So in our codeLive JavaScript file here, we're going to add wire. And when you add wire, you get a new decorator. But you can't do anything with it unless you've also imported a specific resource, a specific Apex controller. And Assis is saying, yes, I have published an extension pack. If you go to the extensions and you search for Code Friars pack, you'll of course not find it because I didn't put an apostrophe in it. So if we take the apostrophe out, maybe. I swear I have one here called Code Friars pack. just search for CodeFryer. CodeFryer's pack. See, it's right there. You can install it. It has all the extensions that I use, including my theme. I lovingly curate this. I'm about to push out a new update to it because Bracket Pair Colorizer 2 has been incorporated directly into Visual Studio Code. You no longer need it. And the other one that is changed is GitLens. GitLens is now a commercial product, and there is a fork of GitLens, so that's going to change here too. But that is my extension pack. You can find that there. Now, we need to import our JavaScript control, our Apex controller. And to do that, we're going to look at some of these Apex wire to property methods here. And we're going to look at the JavaScript for it. Now, we're going to grab this particular thing, and I'm going to walk you through what it does. So we're going to import getContactsList from @Salesforce/Apex/contact-controller getContactList. What does all that mean? Well, in our code base here, we have contacts controller. Let's open it. Contacts controller. Contacts controller. There we go. It's contact controller. Here's all the Apex we have. And one of these methods is this getContactList. So what we're doing is we're specifying the class name and the method that we want to call when we use this this import. Now we're giving it a name here, getContactList. So down here what I can do is I can say @wire getContactList contacts. And so what's going to happen is when this initiates, when it loads on the page, it's going to make a call out back to our Apex controller. It's going to run this particular method, and that particular method is going to give us back a list of contacts. And now contacts will be populated with a list of contacts. Amir, you want to know how to work with the Apex PMD extension? How about this? Let's get a Apex PMD session set up for codeLive sometime in the future. Honestly, it's probably going to be after TDX, but we can definitely get it on the schedule. Here, I'm going to take a note to do a Apex PMD. And we'll get that scheduled because it's a little bit of a thing, too big of a thing to go through in 16 minutes here. But that's a great question, Amir, and we'll do that. So we've wired this into our contacts. Now what we can do is we can start using those contacts in our HTML. When you do that, you definitely want to wrap that in a conditional template. So here we've got if true. Okay, I'm going to do another conditional template, and it's going to be template if true equals, and I'm going to do contact, what do we call that? We called this one contacts. Okay, I'm going to put this here, contacts. So if we've got contacts, there we go. Then what we're going to do is we could do a for each, we could do all sorts of things. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a template for each contacts for item contact, and we're going to go here and we're going to do contact dot first name, and we'll do template. We'll let the format here. Somebody's saying, Villona's saying, is there an Apex PMD repo on GitHub that is as detailed README you can check out? That's how I set up my PMD. Yeah, there's also an extension. It's part of my extension pack called I think it's called Apex PMD. Let's look it up. Apex PMD, and this does all the work of getting the Apex PMD binaries down and in part of your Visual Studio Code so that you can just use it. And when you use it, let's open up another thing here. What you're getting is you get these problems that are listed here. In this case, all these problems are listed as spelling problems, but you get the idea. They'll show up in that problems tab. And so we've pulled in our template. Now, if we go back over here and reload our page, will have wired in grabbing data from an external Apex controller back in the database. Oh no, we couldn't display codeLive. Assert invalid template iteration for value object and must be an array-like object and not null or undefined. Cool. Now we get to do some debugging. So I'm going to do is inspect. It's going to open up my JavaScript console over here. There's a lot of stuff in here I don't want to care about right now, so I'm just going to delete that. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over to my Sources tab, open this up, and under Modules C, I've got codeLive JS and codeLive child. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go into this, and what I can do, now that I'm looking at the source code, is I can put in things like breakpoints. So I can put a breakpoint in here, and when I look at my wire down here, I can have it show me what it's getting. So what I will do is I will put in, we'll do this here. Now, when I reload this, it's going to automatically break on those breakpoints and say, hey, something's broken. And this is really helpful for debugging things. Okay, so we've got our JavaScript here, and that obviously didn't work. So it didn't pull that in. I think we've got a race condition where it's trying to Adrian, the moving puppy is part of a plugin called Visual Studio Code Pets, VS Code Pets. You can choose between different kinds. I have a puppy. There's also a cat. Different scenes. So we've got this here. We've got a component failing, and it's because I'm pretty sure that if true contacts is coming back as null or empty when it tries to reload it. So what we're going to do is if true contacts is not, let's look at how it's done in like our wire property one. So we'll look here. This has just got the contacts. And if we go look at the HTML, oh, it's contacts.data. Interesting. I forgot that what we're going to get back is that data. Okay, and so we'll do data like that. And yep, we're saving that. Do. Come on. This is why I have the Visual Studio Code Pets thing. So when I'm saving code, I can, play with my pet. No whammies, no whammies, no whammies. There we go. All right, so a couple of things happened. One, we don't get the error anymore, but we also don't see anything. So let's figure out what's going on there. And we're going to look for our components. Where did our components go? That's interesting. Components. Fascinating. They disappeared. Okay. Let's try reloading that one more time. Because we saved this. And when we come back over here, we look at our JavaScript. We're getting this contacts method. And that's all we have to do. And if we look at our example, where we're doing the wire method to property, get contact list contacts. That should be exactly what we're trying to do. And maybe I need to add a key in template for each. Oh, that could be true too. Let's look at an example here. This is why I love Lightning Web Component recipes, because we're able to do the for each and get this kind of thing here. Yeah, okay. What I'm going to do is I'm going to copy that. We're going to close that one. We're going to look at our HTML. We've got 4 item contacts. We're going to do this. Contact ID, contact name. All right, that works. See if that works. I always forget that I have to do the key. When you do an iterable, if you don't put the key there, it's like, you asked me to do nothing! So that key becomes really important, and I tend to always forget it. For whatever reason, I tend to do a lot more like back-end Apex type work instead of Lightning Web Components, which is weird because I really love doing Lightning Web Component development. It's a lot of fun, but I don't get to do it as often as I would like, and so sometimes I forget things like the key. And now, if we look at this, I fully expect this to work, and if it doesn't work, then we'll just have to say bad words. All right, we don't have to say bad words. Here is our list of, I'm going to zoom in there. There is our list of names that it retrieved from the database. So we've also done that bit of work. Close that here. We have to pull and invoke methods from read data from custom objects, which we've done. Use component events and public methods to enable communication between tightly coupled components. Yeah, I don't think we're going to get to that with 8 minutes here, but let's keep looking. Enable communication between loosely coupled components. So the difference between tightly coupled and loosely coupled means that one component only knows about the other component and they only talk back and forth. Okay, you're going to do that with, you'll do that tightly coupled communication with events. Okay, if you want to communicate between loosely coupled components, you can use Lightning Data Service, Lightning Message Service, or PubSub. Those are for things like, oh, I might have a list over here, I might not. Loosely coupled components. We've talked about customize and use external JavaScript in a Lightning Web Component. Yeah, we're also not going to get to that one in 8 minutes here. Troubleshoot your JavaScript code, and let's look at that here. In the past, when we've looked at this, what I've done is I've brought up the debugging console. Now the debugging console is baked into every browser I've ever used, and if we just right click on something, you can click on inspect and it will open. I've got mine configured to open here on the side. I think by default now it opens on the bottom. You can change that by looking at the docking side configuration here. I think this is the default, but I find that I have a wider monitor than I have a taller monitor. It's wider than taller, so what I like to do is I like to keep this on the side so that I can see more of my code. Now when I right click and choose inspect, it goes into a mode where as I mouse over things, it's going to try and show me the HTML element over here that I'm mousing over, and the vice versa of that is true. So if I hover over a node in the code, it'll highlight that code there. Now that's all really useful and good for finding out information about the markup. But if we want to start doing things with the code, the JavaScript code itself, we can look at the sources pane. And well, in order to make this, I'm going to save this here real quick, and then I'm going to back out of this. Okay, now down here I'm going to choose inspect, and I've got I can hover over things, it'll show me the different names. Now if I go to the sources, I can look into my modules/C, and here I've got the JavaScript for my components. And this is really, really powerful because what I can do is I can come in here and I can say, I want to look at my code, and I want to say, well, here, let's do this, make this bigger. I can say, I want to look at and figure out why my wire properties isn't working. And we can look through here and you'll find that this code is not exactly what you wrote. It's sort of a compiled version of it, but it's easy to follow if you've got debug mode turned on. If you don't have debug mode turned on, you're going to end up with like var a equals, and it's really hard to follow. That's why I turn on debug mode when I do this. But you'll see that I've got my class definition